Welcome to Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald. Hey, that's me. Hi, and welcome to Positive Talk. Our show features the best positive stories and people from around the globe as we endeavor to answer the universal question of why am I here and what is my purpose? Understanding that can change everything, and knowing your greatness is fundamental to living your best life. So join us right now as together we work to create the adventure of our lifetime. And welcome everybody to the show today. I got to tell you, we are going to have a great guest. We're going to have a great discussion. A couple things off the top. First of all, I have to say that we've talked about dysfunctional marriages. We've talked about dysfunctional people. We've talked about families. We've talked about sexual abuse and physical abuse and all that kind of stuff. But we have not really touched on this particular angle of abuse, because it is one of those things that is hidden from a lot of us, because it's not something that we generally are going to blurt out in conversation. And so consequently, we have a young lady with us who, in finding the adventure of her lifetime and her passion, she has come to terms with some things that happened in her past, and we're going to talk about that. We're also going to talk about everybody else in the world. In my opinion, I think it's very, very common, but a lot of people don't want to talk about it. It'll come out as to why in just a moment. But if you, by the way, if you want to go to her website, go to JillESchwartz.com. I believe it's Schultz. Yeah, I knew that. Jill's. Hold on, I got to do this, and then yes, JillSchultz.com and
JillESchultz.com. It's all good.
I'm sorry. I'm looking forward to a 4-day weekend, so I'm just anyway. But we're gonna talk about all that. And Jill, welcome to the show. You come to me by way of the magical and mystical Brad Walsh, and he has done some great things. And so, if you ever think about it, look up his website, and which is empowerography.com, and find out more about him. But Jill, thank you for coming, and thank you. I appreciate you being here.
It is such my pleasure. And yes, Brad, he's a lovely, lovely human being. And when he mentioned you to me, he's like, you're going to love him. So I'm so grateful to be sharing space with you today. So thank you.
Well, and I'm really excited. I don't know if excited is the right word.
It's weird, right? But it is.
Yeah, but I'm thrilled to be able to bring this topic to light, because it's one of those things that happens to, I think, most of us. And so it has to do with our children and being children, and what happens when we grow up, and the things that we deal with that we might not even know. So you have a disclaimer that I would love for you to talk about before we even begin.
Yeah, thank you. So this is a tender, taboo topic, and it's like you said, we're excited to talk about it. And I celebrate the fact that I get to be one of the people in the world to share this. It's a weird way to think about it, but I have figured out how to see the gift in my pain. And I have surrendered into the fact that I get to be the poster child for this. So if anything that I say today is triggering to you, because with sexual trauma, for me, it was like a wave. It would come and go and come and go. And, I was hiding from it for so long and pushing it down, that if this is your story, or, even if this isn't your story, everybody has a secret. Everybody has one thing that only you and God know about. And I'm here to, openly share my story to give you permission to share yours. But if yours is related to what I'm talking about, and you feel unsafe, or you feel like you need support, on my website at JillESchultz, SCHULTZ.com. And sorry, the letter E is for Elizabeth, JillESchultz.com. I have a resources section, and there's a get help section on there. And there's a lot of anonymous places where you can reach out. Nobody has to know who you are, but where you can share your story and, share how you need support. So thank you, Kevin, for us getting that, talked about from the very beginning.
Well, the insidious thing about this particular topic is that you might not even remember what happened until you're triggered and you remember and it comes up for you. And that's really important that resources page is there, because you just don't know, and you don't know how it's going to play out, but it does affect your life in a bunch of different ways that you may not even have a clue as to why. And then it comes forward for you and you go, oh, I get it. That's why this happens. And this is why I did this and stuff.
Yeah. I also want to say too, if this is triggering for you, then this is something you get to look at. You get to be brave, you get to be courageous, and you get to figure out why it's triggering you, because it's triggering you for a reason. It's saying, okay, it's time to look at this.
And I'm willing to go out there, and it's not even a limb. I'm pretty sure that 99% of women or girls this has happened to at one point or another.
And men.
Yes.
Yeah. And for men, for me, I believe, I'm not a man, obviously, but I believe this is harder for men to rationalize because of, if you're a straight man, the idea is that maybe you're gay because of what happened to you. I feel like that is a consideration. So I feel like, and I know we haven't even said what it is yet, but I wrote a book, and there's actually 3 men who have contributed in the book because of that. So if you're a man and we're talking about this and this is landing for you, I totally get it. And you're loved and you're supported, and, you get to talk about it.
I agree. And men won't.
I know.
Some
men will, but that's why. But that's another reason why I'm creating a movement. We get to talk about this. We get to normalize this conversation, especially coming from the space of what happened to me and how I reacted because of it. I'm not talking about normalizing sexual trauma or normalizing all of that, because, obviously that is, it's awful. But the way that children act out because of what somebody taught them to do, and the guilt that came along with that for me, is something that we get to normalize, because little kids are little kids. Little kids can't rationalize like an adult. Little kids just replay or redo things that they're taught. And so, we get to really start talking about this and releasing people from the shame around it.
Okay, so now everybody's going, all right already.
What is it?
Tell us, what are we going to talk about today?
Yeah. Okay, here we go. So I was molested when I was around 3 or 4 years old. I don't remember who did it. It doesn't matter. I forgave that person a long time ago, because I realized that whoever hurt me, somebody hurt them. Hurt people. But where my story goes into a little bit more of the tender taboo part is how I acted out. And I was innocently and curiously experimenting with other children when I was just a child myself, because of what somebody taught me to do. And the debilitating shame that I lived with for 41 years affected me in many areas of my life. It affected me with an eating disorder. I was bulimic until I was 41. It affected me in relationships with men. I would walk in a room and a man would look at me and I would immediately look down, because it took me many years to figure out why I was doing that. And I came to the conclusion that I didn't want a man to see me, because I thought, if a man knows what I did, how could he love me? And now I'm like, how can he not love me? I've done all this work. I know that I'm worthy of love. I know that I'm, worthy of having beautiful relationships. And And then the third way that it really affected me was in business. I have several businesses. I'm a serial entrepreneur, but I struggled a lot with imposter syndrome. And, that all comes down to self-worth. And so if you're hearing this for the first time, or if this is something that you have been pushing down for years and years and years, I see you. I know how you're feeling. I know that you probably have this awful pit in your stomach and you're like, oh my God, how can I ever tell anybody this? But I want to tell you, one of the most miraculous things and beautiful things that happened in my healing journey was every single time that I've talked about my shame and my how I acted out, the level of love and understanding and kindness and compassion on the other side of me saying those words can still bring me to tears over and over again, because I had made up such a story around how somebody was going to see me, how they were going to feel about me, what they were going to think about me. And it was a lie. Like, we make up these stories about all of that. So I guess this is a time to take a breath.
Well, and I wanted to ask you, because I've been thinking about this. I've been thinking about this discussion all day long, and I don't even know. I'm a little older, and so in the '60s and '70s, there was something that everybody talked about, but very few. I never participated in it that I'm aware of. But have you ever heard the term "children playing doctor"?
Oh, of course. Yes.
I don't know if that's a thing anymore, but at that time, it was, because kids are naturally curious
Yeah.
about their own bodies, about others, and that kind of thing.
Yeah, I want to really be clear about that, because yes, children are curious and children will always be curious. There's a difference between childhood curiosity and there's a difference between what I was doing. I as a girl, I knew how to have sex. Children do not know how to have sex. But because of what that adult who hurt me taught me, I knew those things. And so that's how I was acting out. I wasn't acting out in a curious way like normal children do. So if you played doctor when you were little, I don't want you to immediately go to, oh my God, story. That's not what I'm saying. Because I was sexually abused and an adult taught me to do things that a child doesn't know how, that's how I was acting out. And that's the shame that I lived with.
Then that is a totally different
Completely
concept
different thing. Yeah.
than natural curiosity,
Yes.
because you were, number one, you were abused, and I'm so sorry that
Thank
at
you.
such a tender age
Yeah.
that happened to you, and you don't even remember necessarily who it was, because normally you don't carry memories. Think about this, everybody. Generally speaking, you don't carry memories before you're 5 years old. I have very little memories, just a few of when I was younger than that. But were if it had such an impact on you that you carried it with you for 41 years, that's a completely different thing.
Yeah.
And that's a big deal. And it affected you in so many ways. I assume it affected your relationship with men in both as a partner and just in talking with guys and in work, and like you said, in every aspect.
Yeah. I have beautiful male friendships and always have. So it never crossed over into that. And if this is your story too, like some of the ways that acting out the way that I did can affect you is definitely eating disorders, which I mentioned. I was bulimic until I was 41 years old. Um, Self-harming, so cutting and things like that, alcohol abuse, drug addiction, boundaries in any kind of relationships is also another way. But for me, I always had really beautiful friendships. In fact, I have some girlfriends that I went to high school with and junior high coming next week. And I always have very long, beautiful friendships. But with men, the way that it affected me was in an intimate way. Like anytime a man was attracted to me, it was very hard for me to, number one, feel worthy of that. And number two, be open to that, because I thought, okay, if I get into an intimate relationship with somebody, then ultimately this is something that I would share with them because that's what intimacy is. And so that terrified me. And so I avoided those relationships. I would go years and years and years and years without being intimate. And that's just not normal. But, I want people to know that on the other side of healing, like life is magical. I'm in the process. Now I know that I deserve to have a beautiful relationship. And I know what I want. I know what I deserve, and I know what I get to ask for. And so for me, I believe if I had gotten married very young, I would most likely be divorced at this time. But now I get to bring in this beautiful person in my life, and I get to have this beautiful union with somebody because I know I'm worth it. And I know that the kind of person that I get to call in right now is the kind of person who is just my divine complement.
I wanted to ask you because one of the things that you dealt with for a long time was bulimia. And I don't know what I know what it is in an intellectual way, but I don't know how it affects somebody on a day-to-day basis way of I assume it's because bulimia is you're not eating, is that right?
No,
And
that's anorexia. Bulimia is binging and purging.
oh, that
Yeah.
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 And that can be a big problem unto itself as well.
Yeah. I have recently found out that bulimia, I think eating disorders on either side, anorexia and bulimia, is about control, because you actually have control of what's happening. And an interesting side note, that one of the mass shootings, they have been following the students, and it might have been Columbine, I can't remember. But statistically, a lot of the kids that were involved in that are suffering from eating disorders. And it's because it's something that you can control, which I found very interesting.
Oh yeah,
If you
because
can't control how your emotions are feeling or anything like that, the one thing that you can control is with anorexia. Not eating, you're definitely controlling there. And with bulimia, you can control, eating and then expelling it so that you don't gain weight or whatever I'm not a therapist, so I don't want to say the wrong thing here or, talk about it the wrong way, but I had heard that it was for control.
so if you have that, there's a resources page,
Yeah.
or if you feel like that is something that you might consider. I don't know if it's something that you would even consider. It just kind of happens, doesn't it?
I'm writing this down because I want to make sure that I have an eating disorders resource on the resources page, because I'm not quite sure. I know that there's Overeaters Anonymous on there, and that would probably fall into this category. I'm sorry, what did you ask me? I apologize.
Oh, that's all right. You were busy writing stuff down.
I'm trying to make sure I have all the bases covered, but say again what you were asking.
It was so long ago. That was so long ago. I no, it's like well, let me give you an example. Do you remember Karen Carpenter?
Of course.
And she had anorexia, and they didn't recognize it, and because they thought she was just trying to lose weight, but it was much more than that, and it ended up costing her life
Yeah.
at a very young age.
Yep.
And so if you're feeling like, I think the question I was going to ask you was, do you even know that you have a propensity for that? Are you even thinking in terms of, I'm not going to eat today so I get skinnier, or does it just naturally happen because you can control that part of your life?
I don't know that I can answer. I can only answer that question for myself.
Yes.
I was in high school when I first started being bulimic, and I actually got caught, and that, I was born in the 60s, so I'm 56 now. And so we kind of grew up in the same time frame where people just weren't having these conversations,
No,
so that should have been an indication that maybe something was going on in my life that I needed to talk about. But because at that time we didn't know to look at these kinds of things, but I did get caught, and I was told, if you do that again, you're going to go to therapy. But of course I was doing it in hiding. From high school to 41 years, so
you got good at it.
I got real good at it. Yeah.
Well, you see, and that's the thing. If you are somebody that's listening to this And I was born in the late 50s. You were born in the 60s. In those days, these were topics that were not discussed.
Yeah.
Eating disorders were never discussed.
Even
Remember
in the
Twiggy?
70s. Yeah. Yeah.
Remember Twiggy?
Yes, I do.
She was a model, and
Mhm.
she was extraordinarily thin, and she was actually celebrated for being as thin as she was. And I've come to understand, in working with and talking with models subsequent to that, that it is a real thing to starve yourself if you're a model.
Absolutely.
And so people that are just out there, like good looking women like yourself, that are just out there, and you get this body image that is not sustainable for 90% of the people. And so that's why that leads into that. But the body images, fortunately, they're changing a little bit. So
I agree. I'm so grateful that they're now, and please don't judge me for saying the Kardashians, but I'm going to say the Kardashians. You know, these girls have bodies. They got booties, they got boobs, you know. So I love that that image is changing, and we are celebrating curvier women. You know, I guess I maybe could have found a better example than, but
well,
you know what I mean? So there.
I didn't even know that butt surgery was a thing until I heard about. I think one of them had
Butt implants. Yep.
Yeah, I'd never heard of that as a thing, but apparently
Yep.
it is. But getting back to you, first of all, I want to thank you for doing this, because it's very important. And you've also got a whole program outlined to help people who are going through this issue. And it's all anonymous. So somebody can contact you, and that information will never go
Yep.
anywhere.
Yep.
And that's important for people to know, because
Yeah.
nowadays it's important for people to have a group of people, like-minded people that have gone through the same things, that can say, oh, I'm not alone.
Yep.
That happened to me, that happened to you, that happened. And so it's important that people have that resource. So thank you for doing that.
Well, you know what? Honestly, I did not choose this.
I know. I need to take a quick break, and we come back. We're going to
Yeah.
talk about how didn't you choose this, and how it kind of reared its ugly head and came up and said, guess what? This is what you're going to do.
Mhm.
You're listening to Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald. We'll be right back.
They have your eyes. They have your ears. They have your smile. Now all they need is a little more of your time. Make a difference in your child's life, because anyone can be a father. It takes time to be a dad.
And welcome back to Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald. We've got a great guest and a very interesting topic that we are touching on today. And Jill Schultz is her name. I got it right. I'm so proud of myself. And she is she has dealt with something her entire life, and then when she reached the conclusion that she needed to work on it for herself, what was it that decided that you, because it happened to you and you were working through it, that you wanted to help others do the same thing?
This question has kind of two parts to it. I've always had massive dreams and big goals. Like, I remember being a very little girl and visualizing what my life was going to look like when I was older. And it was always, you know, I was a powerful woman in charge of a huge office with glass everywhere and overlooking the ocean. And so I was watching an episode of Oprah one time, and she said that I don't remember if she wrote it down or if she just said this, but she's like, I want to be part of something that's bigger than myself. I wrote that down. Yeah.
Well, be careful what you wish for.
I am a master manifester. And so I wrote that down. And I looked at that for years and years and years. So that's one part of the story. That goes to me always wanting to have massive impact. I never knew how it was going to happen. I just knew from a very young age that I was going to have a very beautiful life with massive abundance. And the second part to that is, as I was going through all of my healing, and I started going to therapy when I was 33. And, even 2 years ago, I started doing this very beautiful transformational work. And everybody should do this, whether you have trauma or not. Everybody's got trauma of some sort. But I did landmark education, if you have heard of that. I did that in my 30s. And then I did, just the last 5 years, I was doing this program called Hardcore Leadership. And I also did their advanced program, which is called PhD, but I don't have a PhD, so you don't have to call me doctor. It was just what they called it. But during all of that, like, I was really like, I don't know why I'm here. 2 years ago, I was driving around and I'm like, why am I here? And I'm blessed. Like, I have a couple of businesses. I love what I do. And I realize people go to work every day and hate what they do. And I'm so blessed that I love what I do. But I was like, why am I here? I really don't know what I'm contributing. And as I was doing this transformational work, I had a massive breakdown during one of the trainings. And I'm like, I don't know why I'm here. Like, I literally was screaming in front of 100 people. And that night, as I was going to sleep, God's like, you get to tell your story. And I was like, oh, no, I don't. Oh, no, you have got me wrong, buddy. I hear God talk a lot. We fight a lot. We have this beautiful, beautiful relationship. But that was finally when it was like, okay, and nobody's talking about this. I have Googled, I think there was one woman that wrote a book about how in foster care she had acted out with other children, but I have Googled and Googled and Googled, and nobody's having this conversation. And so not only was that extremely terrifying for me, it was also exciting to know that I could make a difference and really bring this to the forefront. But that's kind of how all that happened. It was just like, oh, be careful what you pray for is right, because here we are.
Well, and this isn't a commercial for the landmark, but I also took it, and
I saw you laugh when I said it.
Yeah, my favorite line of the whole thing was we went through 2.5, well, as you know, we went through 2.5 days of talking about stuff, telling our stories, and yada yada yada, and trying to come to grips with all the trauma that everybody in the room had one type of trauma or another. One hadn't talked to his mother in 10 years.
Yeah.
And then he gets on the phone and he calls her, and then she decides to fly over from Germany, and so that they could get together, and so they did some really good work. But
yes,
but this is in the middle of the second day. The facilitator stood up and said, "By the way, I just want all of you to know that your life is empty and meaningless." You're laughing, and a guy stood up and said, "I resent that. How can you say that my life, I've got value. My life is full of stuff, and I've got this, and and he said, no, you misunderstand what I'm trying to tell you." Yeah. And to me, this is one of the most powerful things that I've ever heard in my life. And that is, your life is empty and meaningless, which means that every day you get up in the morning and you get to fill your life up with whatever you want. And then you get to assign whatever meaning has got your highest good attached to it. And that, so you can now have meaning and know what you're about and know what you're doing. And half the room got it, the other half didn't, and stuff. But it is an important aspect for all of us, is to understand that yesterday is gone, and not much you can do about yesterday, but you can do something about today. Yeah. and going forward. And I just love the fact that your passion was, I don't want to do that though.
No. Well, there's so much to unpack in what you just talked about. That type of work, that type of transformational work is really about you talked about every day we wake up, we get to take responsibility. Every single day we get to choose what our life looks like. And that's taking responsibility for owning that. Like, how do I say this? You get to forgive the person who hurt you, not for you, but not for them, but for you. Right. Because if you're holding on to all that pain and all that trauma, it's really directing your life the way that it's going, because it's all that it's overshadowing everything that you get to do in your life. And so I caught on from a very young age that, oh my God, every day I get to wake up and decide what my life looks like. And that really is about, when you're pointing your finger at somebody else, guess what?
You're pointing 4 back at you.
You got 3. I'm doing a gun. So.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Yeah. You have fingers pointing back at yourself. And that's like, you get to take responsibility. You get to own what your life looks like. So I love that you just brought that up. I love it.
It's an important aspect that all of us should, well, if you choose to, you can understand that you are in control of what you do on a day-to-day basis, how you interact with people, how you go to the grocery store, and how you talk to the clerk or the bus driver. I was a bus driver for 12 years. Do you know, I tried to say hello to every person who got on the bus. I would say, hi, how are you? And nice to see you, or something. And occasionally I'd have somebody turn around and go, what did you say? Thinking that I said something derogatory.
Right.
But 20% of the people that got on my bus, and I dealt with hundreds of people a day, 20% responded back. The other 80% didn't do anything. And that was a choice that they were making. Yeah. But it was a negative choice in their own life, in their own mind, and it didn't make any sense to me. But so you have a choice in everything that we do, in every moment of every day, and I'm glad that you chose to do this.
Yeah. Well, and today, for anybody that's listening, if this is your story, you get to choose today to look at this. You get to choose today to grab the bull by the horns and look at your shame and say, you don't own me anymore. Today gets to be the first day of your life if you choose to. And I hope that for you. I really hope that for you.
It is an insidious thing, that story that people tell themselves that they firmly believe and they can't get over. When we come back, we're going to talk about those stories and how you can help people get over them and understand that they're just stories. They don't have any, they're not real, and none of it's real. Again, we're talking with Jill E. Schultz. Go to JillESchultz.com and find out everything about her. She is phenomenal, and she's interested truly in helping people, and that's why you're here on this show, because you mean it. You're not just fooling around because you put your story front and center out there. So we're going to be right back. So stay right with us.
You're listening to Brushwood Media Network, the best in syndicated talk, news, and entertainment shows.
As you go about your daily life, look closer. As you gather with family and friends who love and support you, look closer. There are youth right in your community who don't have the home, warmth, and healing you have. So look closer. Every year across America, a staggering 4.2 million youth are homeless or trafficked. And for 50 years, Covenant House has worked relentlessly to keep them safe and protected. Tonight, 2,000 young people will sleep safely in a Covenant House bed. And tomorrow, they will wake up surrounded by love. They get clean clothes, hot meals, medical care, and a safe place to sleep. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. In sites across America to help them fulfill the great promise of their lives. So look closer at Covenant House. To help or get help, go to covenanthouse.org.
And welcome back to Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald. And I don't know why I do that. In any event, Jill is with us, and I played that commercial. Not that commercial, but that public service announcement, because it astounds me that there are 4 million homeless kids in this country that don't have a place to live, and they are a lot of them are driven by the trauma that you're talking about,
Yeah.
and have had that in their life. And as they grow up and their life is imprinted with all the negativity and the stories and all the things that they were taught growing up or just learned on the streets, it becomes a really big deal. So tell us about your program and what you're doing to help people who reach out to you and say, hi, my name is Bob. And that's all you have to say is, my name is Bob. And you'll say, hi, Bob, I can help you.
Hi, Bob. Well, yeah, so I wrote a book, first of all. It's called Liberated: Releasing the Dark Cloud of Shame. And that book came about because when I first surrendered into this, you were asking me about my story about how I got to this place. When I was finally like, okay, God, all I wanted to do was get on stage and shout my message from the rooftop, because I had felt so alone for so long. I thought I was the only little girl who ever did anything like that. And I thought, oh my God, if I had heard somebody speak about this when I was younger, my life would be different, because I wouldn't have been living with that shame. And so I talked to a friend of mine who's a speaker, and he's like, well, if you want to get on stage, you got to write a book. And I'm like, I don't want to write a book. Like, I never, ever wanted to write a book. I'm not a writer. And all of a sudden, God started putting these people in my life. As I was continuing to share my story, I heard, that's my story too. That's my story too. So my book is a collaboration of lots of different people. And that's how come we talked about there were men in the book as well. And everyone else, almost everyone else who's written in the book has written anonymously. I'm just laying it all out there. But the book came first, and the book came out November 1st. And after that, I'll tell you what, God has been taking his sweet time with leading me to figure out what I'm supposed to be doing with this. But I had this beautiful divine download, or a God wink, about 2 months ago. And all I heard was, shed the shame, manifest the magic. And I was like, okay, that sounds like a course. So I just literally this last weekend finished creating my Shed the Shame, Manifest the Magic course. And I'm not a therapist, so, I don't act like a therapist. These are the things that I've done and the steps that I've taken to get through this and heal my own heart. And so I'm putting it all out there to help other people heal. And, you can do just the shed the shame part, or you can do just the manifest the magic. I'm really studying a lot about manifesting, and manifesting is listed many times in the Bible. So if you feel like, oh, God doesn't believe that. Yes, he does. It's many times in the Bible. And so I believe that everything on our hearts was given to us by God, and you get to have those things. And so this is really teaching you basics about manifesting. So you can buy them individually, or you can buy them as a bundle. But what I am offering as a free gift is I have the module 2 in my program is called Uncover Your Shame. And this is and all of this is at home at your own pace, because I understand that people who are dealing with the toxic shame that I was living with, you don't want to get out on a camera or on a Zoom or in a meeting room when you're first starting your healing. So this is 100% for you to do at home at your own pace. But the Uncover Your Shame is a series of questions, and I will share one of them with you right now, because I think it's really powerful. And that's, what is one thing that only you and God know? And when people hear that, that is what gets you to the core of whatever you've been hiding from, whatever that secret is. And like I said earlier, this program is not necessarily specifically for people with childhood sexual trauma. It's anybody that has a secret that you've been hiding from. It could be infidelity. It could be you stole money. It could be you went to prison. Like, it could be a number of things. But this Uncover Your Shame is a series of questions that I go through. And I take it deep, because my shame did not just start and end with when I was molested as a little girl. My shame continued when I was acting out with other children. It continued when I got caught in a closet with another child. It continued when I had my eating disorder. It continued with how I interacted with men. It continued with my imposter syndrome. There were many legs that were attached to that very, very one childhood experience. And so I take you through a list of questions to get you to that place of, this is really what has been holding me back. And then the second part of that is I take you through a guided meditation. It's a Hawaiian healing meditation called Ho'oponopono. And it was one of the final experiences that I had in releasing the shame that I still had attached to me even a couple years ago around my childhood trauma. So I hope it's a beautiful experience for people to be able to figure out what it is, their shame, and then start the healing practice with this. And this is 100% free to you, the Uncover Your Shame. It's on my website, jilleschultz.com. It's the very first thing you're going to see when you go to my website. It's a free gift, and it is 100% anonymous, at home. Do it at your own pace. So thank you for asking about that, Kevin.
Oh, you betcha. By the way, have you ever had a lie detector test?
I don't think so.
I did.
Okay.
Because when I was a general manager of a restaurant,
Okay.
and it got broken into, and somebody had the combination of the safe, and so they took some money and all that. So they had all the management go through a lie detector test. And one of the first questions the guy asked, and this is why I'm bringing this up. One of the first questions the guy asked was, okay, have you ever stolen anything from any employer at any time ever? And he was like, oh, shit, how do I answer that? Maybe a pencil? I don't know. And so I said yes. And at the end of the session, I asked him, why did you ask that question? And he said, it is a control question.
Yeah, you set a baseline.
It sets a baseline because everybody has stolen something from an employer, so that gets a reaction out of everybody. And it might be like a pencil.
Yeah.
It might be something simple, but the same thing happens like in what you're talking about. We all have got these secrets that are there, and nobody wants to talk about those innermost secrets but they can be devastating to somebody through their entire life.
Yeah. And you're not alone. I say this glibly. You're not special. Whatever your secret is, I promise you, you are not the only one that has it. You are not that special. I say that with love.
It's like when you get into trouble at work, or I drove a bus for 12 years, and when we got called to the supervisor's office, a wise old bus driver said to me, there's nothing that you can possibly do that he hasn't seen or heard of before. Yeah. So get off your high horse and just go get it done and forget about it, because it happens to all of us.
Talk about it. Say it out loud. Scream it in a pillow. Write it in a journal. I don't care how you get it out of your body. Get it out of your body. That's the first step.
And I want to tell you, I want to highlight something about you that is unique. And I think it's way too unusual. And I'd like more people to do it, which is one of the reasons why this show exists. Because I say, why are we here and what is our purpose? And that is something that a lot of us just don't ever get around to answering that question. It was a burning question for you for a number of years. Yeah. And over time, you were given the answer bit by bit and piece by piece. And then as it continued to manifest itself, became a big deal. And that's really cool that you... So that's by the way, the next course that you're going to do is to manifest for life and for goodness and to take care of each other and all that kind of stuff, because you're pretty special, I got to tell you.
Thank you. After I just told everybody else they're not special.
Well, but you see, you're living a real dream. You're not living a fake thing. You're living what you have been destined to be here to do.
Well, there's a saying, it's my favorite quote in the whole wide world, and I don't say it exactly. It's Neil Donald Walsh, and it's basically, life happens outside your comfort zone. And this work, stepping into doing the healing, this is all very uncomfortable. It is not easy. It is hard. And I think what I was blessed with from birth was being brave and courageous. And that's what we get to do when we step into this. You have to be brave. You have to be courageous. And sometimes I wonder how people think of me now talking about this as easily as I can. You know, a year and a half ago, there would have been tears, this whole conversation. But I have said this, my story over and over and over and over again, that it has lost its power. So I want people to know, I want you to feel hope that by doing this work and talking about it, you could be having a similar conversation with somebody and not be so attached to what people are going to think about you or how emotional you're going to get about it. Because, I mean, look, we're having this very intense, taboo, tender conversation, and we're able to make some jokes and laugh and have some fun around the topic too, because life on the other side, I feel like, are we freezing a little bit? Oh,
No, you're okay. You're okay.
Life on the other side of healing is magic. It's magic. It's magic. And I want people to know that.
By the way, I had the opportunity to interview Neil for the radio last Friday.
Oh my goodness. I would love to have a conversation with him. Can you make that happen?
Now I'll make you a deal. Next time I have him on, I've had him on several times, and I'm going to have him on again because he's such an amazing man, and he admits the fact that he is not perfect. Because I mentioned to him,
he's not special either.
No, he said to me, he said to another interviewer one time, and I brought it up to him, and he said, I said, according to this interviewer, one of your children came up to you, you were having an argument with them, and your child said to you, maybe you should read the books you've written. And because you wrote Conversation with God 1, 2, and 3 and Revelation and just a bunch of great, I highly recommend. And he's got a new book out that I wanted to reference here because it's called God Talk. Okay. And what it is God talks to all of us all the time.
Yeah.
God talks to you all the time. But the question is, who's listening?
Yeah.
And he said in his mind, the biggest quote that God gave him was, "You've got me all wrong," meaning that we don't listen to him like we could.
Yeah, that Conversations with God, I didn't know there was a 2 and a 3. I did listen I do Audible because I won't sit and read. Changed a lot about me.
It's a very powerful book. And by the way, get the audio book. Ed Asner and what's her name? Anyway, Ed Asner voices God, as does Burgess, Ellen Burgess, I think. Two real big actors. And I asked him how they got Ed, and he said, well, Ed said, my agent called me and said, how'd you like to play God? Ed said, well, okay. So in any event, enough of that. But I wanted to thank you again, because your story is in your book, and I want people to go get that book and put it on your coffee table, because somebody in your household, when you're having a party or something, that may resonate with them. And
we're creating a movement. This is a movement. And I will share, the book is not an easy book to read. It is not. It's a hard book, but the chapters are not dependent upon each other. So if you're reading one chapter and it's hard for you, go on to the next chapter. But there's some, like, my therapist wrote a chapter about how to talk to your children so that they're not targets. Because, we laugh about the birds and the bees conversation, right? Like, oh, we're going to have the birds and the bees conversation. That's one conversation. How many times do you have to do multiplication and division and addition and subtraction to learn how to do that? We feel like that one conversation with our child is going to set them up for the rest of their life on sex talk. You have to be having those conversations over and over and over again. And there's also in the book with my therapist, what if your child has been hurt? What do you do? How do you react? And one thing is, do not overreact, because your reaction is going to attach itself to that child as well. And then at the end of the book, I like to think the last chapters are uplifting because it's people who have had massive trauma in their life and have really manifested and created beautiful lives for themselves. So thank you for talking about the book again, because for me, it's with having other people contribute to it. It's not just one person saying that was me who did that. There were many people in there who said that's my story too. So it gives even more validity to, you are not alone. You are not the only person that acted out as a child, if this is your story.
And it's an important book, and for people to recognize, you're right, that you're not alone. It happens to more people than, hopefully it will become a common occurrence to have that conversation with enough people that more people will recognize that it's much more common, I think, than what people are.
Sadly, way more common. Yes.
Yes. And the one more thing I would like to mention before we take the break, which we've got one last quick 30-second break to take. And that is that in today's society with kids today, it's different. And if you're a parent, this. They've got access to things on their hand, in their computer, that we only dreamt about when I was a kid.
Yeah.
And so consequently, they learn things in many cases the wrong way. And you need to be a lot more forthcoming, I think, and talk to a therapist, but be more forthcoming about what is actually out there.
Yeah.
And if they're seeing some of the things that you can readily get for free on the internet, just type in a certain thing. So it's crazy. You answer that phone call, and I'm going to take this break, and we'll be right back. And again, we're talking with Jill E. Schultz. Go to jilleschultz.com, find out all about her, and you can get the help you need. You can also dial 988, and they will help you as well. We'll be right back.
A lifetime of savings can disappear overnight. Millions of dollars are stolen every day from unsuspecting older adults by family members, caregivers, and trusted professionals. If you suspect financial exploitation, call the Elder Care Locator at 1-800-677-1116 or go online to the National Adult Protective Services Association to be connected with help in your area.
And welcome back to Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald. We're talking with Jill E. Schultz. And by the way, that commercial I just played, that is also another thing that is not readily talked about in our society. Is, since I'm a little older now, I'm more concerned with elder abuse than I might have been 20, 30 years ago. Yeah. So take care of the people that are around you and make sure that they don't get taken advantage of. But you have, so tell me, you also are a speaker. Yes. And when do you have some speaking engagements lined up, or can we help you line some up here on the show today?
Let's line some up, man. Since this is fairly new for me, it's just been, 7 months since the book has been out. And I told you, God has taken his sweet time preparing me for all of this. So that's my next exciting thing, is really getting on stages. And my hope is, like, I can talk on different topics. I can, be a speaker for sexual trauma. I can be a speaker for leadership, corporate, women's empowerment. What I hope that I bring to the table is inspiration and hope. I want people to know that even if you lived with this kind of trauma, I'm 56 now. I didn't love myself until I was 51 years old. And I feel like my life is beginning now. So that's the next phase, is getting on stages and inspiring people to know that, you know what, if this is your story, you get to do the work to heal. And then you get to create this beautiful, magical life with God, because that's why we're here. We're here to live beautiful, powerful lives where we get to help people and love people and have everything that's on our heart. I have huge goals and dreams, and I know I get to have them because God put them on my heart. I don't want a fishing boat. There's nothing wrong with fishing boats, but a fishing boat is not on my heart,
No.
So the things that I truly, truly believe this. I've done Amanda Francis, I've done some of her coaching. And she said, our desires are our guidance system, and everything on our heart is ours to have. And it's our job every single day for us to realize we get to have those things, and we get to feel what it feels like. This is all going into the manifesting part, which is so much fun, feeling what it feels like to have those things and believing that you get to have them. So yes, getting on stages. I veered.
Perfect. No, that's perfect. Now, have you ever heard of something called the 50,000 foot view?
No.
That's something that I came up with, and I just want to mention it to folks real quick, because you are in the middle of the 50,000 foot view. And what I mean by that is this: you are in the forest, and you get to see all of us are. We get to see the tree in front of us and the tree behind us. We get to trust that we're walking in the right direction, because that's the direction that we've been given to walk. And there is another source, call it the universe, call it God, call it whatever you choose, that has the 50,000 foot view. They see where we've been, they see where we're going, and they're going to help us get to where we say we want to go. And so they're going to keep guiding us.
Yeah.
It may not be in our own time, it's in divine timing.
Yes.
And it takes a little bit more time than we say, I want it now, I want everything now. And they may say, no, you're not quite ready for it yet.
Yeah.
So I'm going to have you do this, and then we're going to go do this, and you're going to get presented with the opportunities that are going to make your life truly an adventure of your lifetime.
Yeah.
If you choose, because they know where you say you want to go. This isn't them. They're saying what you want to do. We got free will. So they're helping you get to where you say you want to go, and we can all do it.
100%. And I believe too that this goes to everything on our heart is given to us by God. It's the same thing. Like, we have those big visions of what we really want. And then the other thing is taking inspired action, or listening to your intuition, or hearing God speak to you, and then taking divine guided action on those things. So when you hear that little voice say, oh, go to the coffee shop today, and you're like, I don't want to go to the coffee shop. You never know who you're going to meet at the coffee shop. Or, you and I getting on a call together, me connecting with Brad, and Brad connecting me with you. Like, everything is happening for us. Everything is happening for a reason. So you get to listen to your intuition and take those steps towards whatever that massive, beautiful thing is that you want in your life. So I love how you said that.
And even when there's somebody that comes into your life who says something like, hey, we should do a television show, which is what a friend of mine that I haven't talked to in 20 years said to me one day. And we decided I couldn't do TV, but we could do radio. Mm-hmm. And that was the beginning of 22 years till today of me doing this. And he was instrumental in getting that done. And again, I haven't talked to him in 20 years. So people will be coming into your life who will be there to assist you, and then they may stay, then they may go. And that's not your decision to make. That's okay.
Yep. It's beautiful. You never know when somebody is going to show up and change your life.
And that's what makes it the adventure of a lifetime. Is it can be, if you look at it from that perspective, it can be so dang cool that you get all this stuff that happens for you. It is happening for you. It's going to happen, continue to happen. You're going to get exactly what you asked for in this. Be careful what you ask for, because you're liable to get it.
I'm a master manifester.
Exactly. Again, we've been talking with Jill E. Schultz. She's got an appointment she's got to get to, and we're late, so I'm going to let her go. But JillESchultz.com. Go to her website, get her book, look at her classes, and do
the free gift. Do the free gift for you. Even if you don't do anything else with me the rest of your life, do the free gift for you.
Did you say free?
Free.
Oh, free is a 4-letter word that I can live with.
Free. Yep. And it's the first thing you see when you go to my website, Jill E. Schultz. It'll be right there in your face.
Thank you so much for being here. Will you come back?
Tomorrow. I've got it already on my calendar.
Perfect. We'll see you soon.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald. Our purpose is to provide everyone with a positive, entertaining, and educational experience. I would love your feedback and comments about the show, including possible topics and great guest suggestions. Please email me at kevin@kmmedia.pro. And remember, be kind to one another because each other's all we've got. That's Kevin